What's going on, everybody? Oh, I forgot to use my countdown timer. I was gonna try to use a little countdown timer today, but I didn't get a chance to use it because I forgot. Next one. All right. How's everyone doing today? Waiting for the first comment to pop up on the screen. Please be sure to give me a sound check. Let me know that you can hear me okay. I think everything's good to go. First person on, let me know that you can hear me. All right, we got 3 people watching. Woo! I think we're gonna have a small group today, but that's nice. What's up, Eliza? How are you? Fantastic. Thank you so much, Eliza. Thank you for the sound check. Danielle Martinez says, I am here. Don says, hi, Jesse. I can hear you. Fantastic. What's up, Lizette Vargas? Very cool. Looks like everything's working nicely. So we're just going to give it a few minutes. We're going to get started here pretty quickly. Actually, just a couple of minutes. Luke, 10th birthday tomorrow. Everyone say happy birthday to Luke. Hi, Luke. Thank you for being here today. And happy early birthday. Hope you have a good time, whatever it is that you're doing. Sky Knight, what's happening from the Bahamas? Fantastic. All the way out to the Bahamas. I was there. I was in the Bahamas about 10 years ago. Not quite. Maybe around 10 years ago. Pretty fun. What's happening, Samantha Burton from Australia? How are you today? What time is it in Australia, Samantha? Let us know what time it is. I think you guys are can't remember how many hours ahead you guys are. But anyhow, oh, Logan, Luke's brother's also on here. What's happening, Logan? Logan and Luke. Fantastic. But all right, everyone. We've got about another minute before we officially get going. My voice is a little bit hoarse today, a little tired. Just been having a busy week, busy morning. About 8 a.m., huh, Samantha? Wow. It's about to be 8 a.m., you're saying. Crazy. All right, early riser. Actually, not that early, but you're on with us early, so that's awesome. What's up, Sue? How's it going? Anyway, a little bit tired of a tired voice today, but we're gonna go through the show, have a good time, do a little painting with pineapple. So hope you guys are all ready to go. Let's see. From the UK, Debbie Sanderson says, just going to bed and we'll rewatch tomorrow. Fantastic, Debbie. It'll be waiting for you. What's up, Guadalupe from Oregon? How's it going? Welcome back. All right, everyone. It's 3 o'clock official start time for today. Like I said, I think we're going to have a small group joining today, so that's pretty cool. The more the merrier, but smaller groups make for a nice little intimate session. I get to interact with more of you. I can get all your comments. Now, Shelly is saying that I sound a little bit staticky. How does it sound? I'm not talking about my voice because my voice is a little bit hoarse. But in general, how does it sound? Is everyone okay? If it is a little staticky on your end, go ahead and exit the video, right? If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, exit and then come on back, try it again. Okay, good. Carla says, sounds great. All of my readings over here, looks like I'm sounding okay. But again, if you have any audio issues, the most common thing that happens on here is usually the easiest way to fix that is exit the video and come on back. Now, it's officially start time, so I want to welcome all of you. My name's Jesse. You're here on my Painting with Jesse page on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm live streaming to both of these platforms today. I just want to remind everyone, if you're new here, Facebook does not allow you to back up a live video. So if you're watching live and you're painting along live and you want to be able to pause and back up, you're going to want to watch this on YouTube. Okay, you want to head over to the Painting with Jesse YouTube page, find the live feed. YouTube does allow you to do all those things. Pause, back it up, jump back up to the live part again. So just a little more versatile while things are live. Either way, this video is being recorded. When it's all done, it will be available to watch afterwards on both platforms. So if you can't paint today, can't paint right now, you can come back to the video later today, tomorrow, the next day. It will be waiting for you to come back and join in with us whenever you have time. Now, as you can see, I've already got my drawing set up over here. We did this on a pre-prep recorded video yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, and you're not using the stencil, or you're using the stencil but you haven't stenciled it on, you want to go back to that video where I teach you how to draw the pineapple. Okay, that video can be found. Let me show you really quick. I got something neat here. For those of you that are interested, I can share my screen with you. Let me show you where, let me see, I gotta go slowly here because I don't want to mess things up. Hold on one second. I'm going to show you where on my page you can, so here I am on the event page. Okay, this is today's event. I'm going to go back to where you would go find any of my pre-prep videos. On Painting with Jesse, let me click on that. There we go. Here's my Facebook page. Okay, up here at the top, you see a tab. You guys see this tab? Again, this is the main Painting with Jesse page, right? Right here, you have a live tab. Okay, here you would go to find all of the videos of all the live sessions that we've done in the past. Okay, including the one we're having right now, which is popping up there on the screen. We don't want that right now. What we want to do is we want to go over to the videos tab. If we click on the videos tab, that's where you can find, whoops, a little bit of a delay. Give me a second. There's the live video again. Here is the pineapple drawing pre-prep step by step. So if you missed this, it's about a 16-minute, a little over 16-minute video where I teach you how to draw this that you see on my canvas. Actually, you can't see it. Maybe you can't see it, but that's where you'll learn how to draw the pineapple. We're not doing the drawing part of it today. We're going to get right into the painting part. Okay? Anyway, let me go ahead and stop sharing the screen. Oh, no, one more thing. One more thing I want to show you guys. We're going to go back to the main page. I'm getting a little fancy here, aren't I? So here, Painting with Jesse page. If you ever want to know what events are coming up, right, on the calendar, so let's say what's happening next week, what's happening the week afterwards, you go up here to the main Painting with Jesse page once again. Right here at the top, you'll see this tab that says More. You click on that, click on Events, and it will take you to my page of upcoming events. So this is today's session. This is a live in-person event that's happening next Monday. But next Tuesday, I changed the date on this. I had to change the date because it conflicted with this one up here. Got a lot of stuff going on, and I kind of messed up on the date. I overlapped two events. So I moved the the turtle family little beach scene to next Tuesday, the 8th, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, I am going to be having a pre-prep drawing video and stencils available for that by the end of tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But anyway, that's what's coming up here with Jesse. Let's get back to today's video, today's event. So hopefully that made sense. Stop sharing. Okay. All right, guys, let's get moving. If you guys are all ready to go, let's do this. Let's talk about today's supplies, what we're going to be using. Of course, I'm painting on a 16 by 20 inch canvas. It is what I typically use for my sessions, unless it's a kid's painting. I normally, if it's a kid-centric painting, I will use a smaller canvas. Okay, I've got a set of brushes that I'm going to go over here in just a little bit. My brushes, while I'm painting, they typically sit in my rinse cup or in a little bin, little tin that I have over on the side. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. I'll show you once we get painting. But for now, I've got a set of brushes that are in here. Might as well go over the brushes now. Let me give you guys a close-up. All right, I'm going to change the view on my video here so you guys have a better shot. Not that one. Too close, too close. There we go. Okay, the brushes that I'm using today. Now, these are not the exact brushes you have. I'm sorry, you do not have to have these exact brushes. Anything close in size will do. I've got a large 1-inch flat brush. Okay, 1-inch flat brush. Mostly I'm going to be using this for the background. Okay, of course, you guys notice I don't have the head, the leafy part of the pineapple. We're going to be adding that together. It's an easy process. So that's especially where everyone's pineapple is going to look a little different. The next brush on the list is this 1/2-inch flat brush. Okay, 1/2-inch little flat brush. I'm going to be using that to paint the inside of the pineapple, add some detail, flowers, etc., etc. Okay, these are all synthetic bristle brushes. I've got a number 3 flat brush. Okay, same shape as the other two, just a smaller version of that. Okay, and then I've got a number 3 filbert, a little easy brush to work with. Actually, these are both number 5 That flat brush was a number 5, and this filbert's a number 5. The filbert brush has a nice rounded head at the top. You don't have this one, don't worry about it. And then I've got a 0 round brush, nice little pointy thing. It helps to add details with. So little tiny number 0 round brush. Okay. As far as the paint colors that I'm going to be using, I've already got most of them spread out on my plate here. Don't mind the glitter. The glitter's old dried up glitter. I used this plate a few days ago. But a little bit of white that I'm going to be mixing with some blue for the background. Okay, I've got some green, 2 light greens, or 2 greens, a light green and a dark green, to be mixing into the background, touching up things like the leaves, the little areas between the segments on the pineapple. I got some teal. I actually have 2 teals. Don't worry about that. I ran out of one, so I used the other. Then I've got a really light kind of a cream color, and then I've got some brown. Okay, so brown, a creamish white color, beige, teal, dark green, light green, blue that I'm going to be mixing with some white for the background. And then I haven't decided what I'm going to color on the new one. I'm thinking of changing the color on the table here to either blue or darker purple. We'll see. But those are the basic colors. Okay. Whoops, let me see here. It looks like I'm missing some comments. All right. Can somebody let me know that you guys can hear me okay? I'm hoping that I didn't glitch anything by going and sharing my screen. All right, here we go. What's up, Lupe? Now, there is a stencil for the pineapple. For those of you that are interested, you don't want to draw it by hand, you can find the stencil on the event page. On the actual event page for today, under the discussion tab, you will find the stencil where you can download it directly from there. You can go get it now, trace it out onto your canvas, go over to YouTube, start the video all over, and start painting from the beginning while the live session is still going. If you have any trouble downloading that file from the event page and you want the PDF file, simply send me an email to paintingwithjesse@gmail.com, and I will get you that PDF file ASAP. Sometime today if you email me today. Okay? But all right, guys, that is pretty much it for the supplies. As far as the basic supplies, you always recommend having paper towels handy, very important. I am going to be using some glitter paint to touch up, to highlight parts of the pineapple. I've got this gold glitter here. I've got some green glitter. Okay. All this is glitter floating around in glue. And then I've got some other gold stuff, and then some red. Okay, we'll talk about that towards the very end. That's when I'm going to be using that paint to accent everything. Like I said, it's towards the very end. But all right, first thing we're going to do is we are going to start painting the inside of the pineapple. Okay, so I'm going to start with a 1/2-inch brush. Okay, we're going to start working on that. Here's the process really quickly. Let me outline it. We're going to add base colors to the pineapple and to the flowers, the base color. While that's drying, we're gonna paint in the colors in the background, and everybody can choose to paint their piece differently. If you want to use different colors, please feel free to do so. It's up to you. It's your painting. But we're going to paint that background in whatever color we choose. I'm going to stick with a lighter blue like what's on the original. Then we're going to paint in the table. This is a table, or maybe it's a floor in your case, up to you. But we'll paint that in next. By that point, everything that we did to the pineapple and the flowers will be relatively dry. Will be relatively dry, and we can come in and start adding some detail to the inside. Some of the highlights and lowlights within that pineapple. As we're working on that, the background dries, and then we come in and start adding the leafy part, the leaves over the top of that pineapple. Okay, then we can come back and do refinements and things like that. But that's how this is going to work. If you're new to the page or to the channel, the way that this works is I outline a step over here. I do it. I give you guys a little time to implement that on your end. In between steps, I answer questions, look at the comments, say hello, that kind of stuff, and then go to the next step, give you guys a little time to do that, so on and so forth. Okay, that's how we do the entire process. I'm looking to be painting for about 2 hours today, maybe a little bit more. We'll see how things are going. Like I said, we've got a small group, makes it a little easier, but here we go. All right, so we're going to start. Let's talk about the pineapple itself. You guys all will get to change the colors on yours however you'd like. Some of you are going to create a more of a golden pineapple, or maybe you have more of the browns in there, the creamy color background, like what you see in there and in here. Up to you, right? Maybe there's more yellows in yours. If you look at the pineapples, the little pictures of the pineapples in the background, they all look a really nice gold. You can create that. What you would do is, instead of using green here on the inside, maybe you're going to have more brown, these little lines in here. Maybe yours is going to be more of a brown color. What I'm going to do is this. I've got this cream color, okay? If you don't have this, all you're going to be mixing is a little bit of white and a touch of brown. A really light touch of brown, maybe even a little bit of yellow. All I'm going to do with this is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go ahead and color in all of my segments with this color. This is a very transparent color, as acrylic paint tends to be, but this is especially transparent because it's a lighter color. The lighter the color, the more transparent it is. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just using my 1/2-inch brush to come in and paint these segments. Now I can paint them in slightly different directions. Like so, for example, this one might paint this way. This one over here might paint in a different direction, a different angle. I'm not looking for a really smooth finish. It is a pineapple, after all, and pineapples tend to have kind of a rough exterior. They're, you know, almost even, in some cases, a little sharp. Those little things that stick out, like in here and on the inside, these little parts that stick out, sometimes can be a little pointy, especially when the pineapple is really dry. So, not looking for a really smooth surface. If you want to have a nice smooth surface, then paint all of your little segments all in the same direction. Create the visual for a more smooth background. Okay, so here we go. Notice I'm holding my brush back here towards the handle, nothing fancy. Nice and easy. I can paint right over my pencil lines. As long as I can still see them through the paint, we're good to go. Okay, so if you're overlapping a little bit, sorry, if you're painting over your pencil lines, that's actually okay. You don't have to. Okay. There we go. So if somebody has a frozen screen or anything like that, simply exit the screen, exit the feed, and come back in. Or give it a little bit first. I would give it a minute or so. Sometimes internet issues pop up. You know, a lot of it will have to do with your own local internet. Sometimes my internet goes a little haywire, although it looks like everything's fine. I'm not getting any messages indicating that my internet's weak or anything like that. But yeah, if you have any persistent problems, exit the feed and then come back in, okay? But all right, so there's my first layer of this creamy, kind of a beige color, or basically a cream color, okay? I've got some brown here, really light brown color. I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm actually using the same plate. I don't have to go to a different mixed plate, as I often do. Oh, yellow, folks. I have some yellow that I didn't put on my plate. Okay, so I'm going to take that brown, a little bit of brown, a little bit of the cream color, and bring it over to the side. You can also do this on a separate plate, as you often see me do. I'm going to grab a little touch of yellow. If you have yellow ochre, any yellow pretty much will do. Just take a little bit of yellow, and bring it over to the side here. I mix all three of my colors. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a little bit of a gold brown color. And it doesn't have to be perfectly blended. I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to pick a few of these segments to add some of this to. Okay, now you could use this color on all your segments, with all of the surface of your pineapple. It's up to you. Depends on what you want your pineapple to look like. Okay. And I'm going to come in here. I'm just selecting some of these. Maybe my pineapple isn't ripe. It's not super ripe. It's still kind of green. Here at the top, my pencil line, you can erase it if you don't want it, or you can paint right over it. Okay. On the original painting, I don't have a very defined edge like I do on the drawing that I made yesterday. So I'm just going to paint a little bit over that, and I will clean that up as we go. Again, my pineapple is a little less ripe than maybe yours is going to be. It's up to you. If you want it to be less ripe, then you would use a little bit more green in yours, like I will be using in mine. So again, just finding some of these little parts to add some of this darker or golden brown to. All right, where else? Maybe in here, maybe a little there. And let's see, how about over here? Sure, why not? So work that in a little bit. Okay, Don, sounds good. No worries. Okay, so take about a minute or two to work on that a little bit. Ask any questions, etc., in the comment section. Okay, you got it, Samantha. My pleasure. My pleasure. So I was playing with this StreamYard platform earlier today, showing a group of other artists how to use it. It's kind of the basics, and I had not tried that screen share until early this morning when I just wanted to practice a little bit, so I tried that. I was like, oh, and I've been wanting to do that, so just added a little tool to the platform so I can share with you guys when you join me. Okay, so for this in here, Donna. So for the colors in here, I mixed a brown color with a little bit of a cream color. If you don't have a cream color, you can just add a little bit of brown and a little bit of white together. And then I actually also added a little bit of yellow. So white, brown, and a little bit of yellow will give you a color similar to what I just used. Okay? So, all right, 30 seconds. I want to remind everyone, if you happen to fall behind, don't stress. Take your time with it if you need to. I know everyone paints at a different pace. This video is being recorded, and you will be able to go watch it as soon as the live session's over. It gets saved automatically to both Facebook and to YouTube, and you can go back there and watch this with the recorded session. Okay. Now, I've got a little bit of teal here, little tiny bit of teal. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm just going to bring some of this over to the edge of my plate. Okay. Now I'm going to take that cream color, a tiny bit of that cream color that I used for the base, and I'm going to mix the two colors together. Again, if you don't have that cream color, you can use white as a substitute, and you'll get a similar effect. Okay, I'm just lightening up the teal. What I'm going to do with this, just going to come in and start introducing some of this lighter color. And I'm just dabbing with my brush. I'm dabbing, especially around the edges. What's happening is the paint is still wet. The base on the paint is still wet. So as I'm working this in, the two colors that I've got start to blend a little. And I don't have a lot of paint on the brush. It's a very light amount of paint. When I do this, as I'm dabbing around, where I set the brush down first, when I do this, when I grab my paint, if I come over and I do this, let's say right in here, where I set it first is going to have the highest concentration of paint. That little amount of paint, I just start to kind of spread it out. What that does is it creates kind of a natural, lighter area of the mixture around the edges. So as I get away from the center, it just gets a little bit lighter, right? Again, the center part, because that's where I touched it first. So let's see again, I've got this mixture over here. Now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to come over here, for example. And let's say we'll come here. Here, wherever I touch first is where the highest concentration of paint is going to be. And as I blend that out, as I start coming around the edges and stuff, as I spread that paint out, there's less and less paint on my brush. So the further out I go, the lighter the blend is going to be. And it's a subtle, very, very subtle touch. But right in here, I got the highest concentration of that green. Again, where that brush first touches, and I'm just dabbing. As I move away from that area, there's less and less paint to work with. on that brush. The paint mixture is getting used up. It's a little bit lighter as I move around. Okay, something to practice. You don't have to get it right the first time. You may even, maybe something you want to practice on your own on a scratch piece of paper, mixed media paper, etc. Now you notice I haven't really introduced any water to my paint. Now I've got really flowy paint. You know, it's not a very thick bodied paint, so it's easy to move around with it and get it to stick to the canvas. Sometimes if you've got a thicker bodied paint, you want to use a little bit of water. Or if you want to thin the paint out, you want to use a little bit of water and just a couple little drops into your mixture and you're good to go. I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. I think most of you on here have painted with me in the past, so you know what I'm talking about. So here I am going to grab a little bit of white now. I'm going to introduce that to the mixture. I just want to lighten it up a little. So now I just introduced some white to the mixture of the cream and the teal. If you don't have that cream color, again, just add a little bit more white. All I'm going to do is just add a few little highlights. It could be random. You don't have to, your painting is not going to look just like mine. It doesn't have to. You know, create something kind of unique. Your light areas might be a little different than mine. All good. Just picking a few little spots here and there. Remember again, my pineapple's probably a little bit more not as ripe as yours, or maybe yours is, or maybe it is more ripe than yours. The riper or more ripe? I think it's more ripe. But all right. Okay, work on that for just a little bit. Let me give you guys a close-up of the original really quickly so you can see where I added some glitter. So I got some glitter, a little bit of gold glitter in some of the brown areas. Okay, and it might be a little hard to see. I'm trying to get them to reflect in the light. I used a little bit of a light green throughout parts of the inside. I used some light green glitter up here. And then I used red glitter down in the flowers. So for those of you that are going to be using glitter, that's what we'll be doing. And if you don't have glitter, don't worry about it. You can always pick it up and add it later. It's not something that has to be done in one sitting. Okay, we'll talk some more about that later. So work on that for just a little. If anybody, so I see a question. Sarah Scott says, does anyone know how to use the templates? So great question. I'm going to be doing a video on how to use templates here pretty soon. I know some people, especially newer people, don't quite understand how to use it. There are different options that you can use with the template. One of them, and as I wish I had an example in here, you could first, you download the template, you print it, and then what you can do, one easy way to transfer that image onto your canvas is to take a piece of carbon copy paper that you can get like at Staples or Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Any art store, for the most part, will carry these carbon copy paper sheets. As long as it's the right size, you can put that onto your canvas or whatever surface you're going to be transferring the image over to. And then you're going to take the template itself, put it right over the top, and you could outline that template right over that sheet of paper that you've got, that you have the copy on. Copy, get the carbon copy paper face down on your canvas. You got the template over the top of that, and then you outline everything. Okay, you remove it. Now you've got that pineapple or whatever it is that you're tracing onto your canvas. You got the image there. Okay, now that's one way. You could also do another thing where you take the sheet itself, the template, and on the opposite side, you hold it up. You can hold it up against the light. What I like to use is I'll take, like my phone, for example, You could put your phone, you could turn the camera on. This is a little bit more complex, but saying, if it's what you've got available, you take your phone, turn the camera light on, you put it on your table, put your canvas on top of it, put the template over the top of it, behind it. I'm sorry, you would put the template behind your canvas. Now you could see that template coming through. The light's shining on the template, coming through the canvas, and now you can trace right over onto that canvas. But lots of different options. That's the carbon copy paper is probably the easiest, okay? But all right, so for now, this is all that we're going to do to the pineapple. Okay, we added some dark areas, some lighter areas, some in-between areas. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some light pink to the flowers. For those of you that have flowers, if you don't have flowers, or you want to use different color flowers, you want to start with a light version of whatever color you're going to use. So I'm going to stick with red. I'm just going to grab some of my white paint with my 1/2-inch brush. I've got another plate over here, another used plate. Just have a little bit of red on it. Just going to grab a little bit of it, bring it over to the center. I got some white on my brush. So the two are mixing and I'm creating a nice light pink. This is the base color I'm going to be using for my flower. Maybe some of you guys are going to be using maybe blue flowers or yellow flowers, white flowers. Okay, if you're painting with white flowers, you're not going to have a whole lot of shading in it. Maybe a bit of gray. So this is the color that I'm using right now for the base on my flower. Okay. I just took my brush, I dipped it into my water cup, and I'm using the 1/2-inch brush still. Just took a little bit of that water, bring it over to my mixture. What that does is it thins the paint out. It makes it a little more transparent. It also makes it a little bit easier to work with. I can spread the paint much more easily across that canvas. If you notice also, it lightened it, that water lightened it up a little bit. So that's the original spot where I added that pink. Then this is the pink that developed when I added a little bit of water to it. To lighten a color, you don't always have to use a different color like white or yellow, etc. Let's say you're trying to lighten up a color. Oftentimes you can get a nice result by adding a little bit of water to thin out the paint. So again, I'm just using this color to come in and create my base. My flowers are going to be, those are reddish flowers over there. And I worked this in pretty quickly. There's not a whole lot of detail. One thing I'm trying to do is just, I can use the brush strokes to start creating dimensions. So for example, I can start painting from the outside in towards the center. If your paint's a little thicker, it's easier to see the streaks that creates. If not, it's more of a subtle effect, but you can already start creating some detail and dimension even though you're using the same color throughout everything. So just, I'm coming right up to my pencil lines, to the edge of my pencil line. I can even go over it a little bit. There we go. All right. What's up, James? Hey, James, sounds good. Remember, you go over to YouTube, you could go over to the live session right now, back the video up to the beginning, and go from there. All right, take about a minute, put the base color in for your flowers, and then we move on. So anybody else celebrating a birthday today, an anniversary, or anything like that? Let me know in the comments where you're painting from, who you're painting with. Just, I'm always curious to see where everyone is joining from. We got about a group of at least 34, 35 devices hanging out right now. Some of you guys are on YouTube. I think most of you guys are on Facebook, but I know there are a few people jumping in on YouTube. So that is fantastic. You got about a minute. Okay, about 30 seconds. I think I already said I gave it a minute. So got to stick with that. We're going to go over and start working on our background. Okay. Awesome, Sarah. Sounds fantastic. Perfect time to get a little painting in. Where'd the kids go camping to? Sounds like fun. I have not been camping in a long time. Did you guys by any chance, speaking of camping, you can, you sure can comment live on YouTube. I'll see your comments right here on, because I'm live streaming to both, any comment that's made on either platform will appear here, okay? Sand dunes, okay. You know, it's funny because I was just thinking of bears, right? I thought of wild animals when you go camping. Did you guys watch that video? It just popped up a couple of days ago. At least that's when I saw it. Of that, it's like a 17-year-old girl, I think it is. There's a bear that walks up with a couple of cubs, walks right over the wall behind her house. So it's a like a brick wall or a cinder block wall, and this big brown bear is walking on the ledge, and it's got a couple of cubs. They have like three little dogs like Chihuahuas and a bigger black dog. Looks like, I don't know, lab mix or something. I don't know. But all the dogs come out as the bear's on the ledge, on the wall, looking over into the yard. They all come up and start barking at it, and the bear's sitting there swiping at the dogs. And I think it manages to whack the big black dog that runs away. As it's sitting there swiping at the dogs, this girl comes out running from her house. It's all on camera there. The security camera catches it. She comes out running and actually pushes the bear, slams into the bear, and knocks it over the wall and grabs her dogs and runs inside the house. That was pretty crazy. If you watch the whole video, there's a guy in the background towards the end yelling. I'm not sure if he just didn't want to come out, or he came in late. But that girl was pretty brave. Anyway, she might have saved her dogs there. But all right, everyone, let's go ahead and work in the background. Let's see. I saw a comment from Donna. What's up, Donna? Says, Jesse, I'm painting with my friend Lisa. We are enjoying this. Awesome, Donna. Awesome, Lisa. Happy to have you here. Okay, here we go. So I'm switching brushes. Now, my little 1/2-inch brush that I was just using, that's going to get put away for now. I'm just taking this. I'm rinsing my brush in my rinse cup. Now what I like to do is this. Now a tin container isn't the best option for this, but what I like to do is I'll have a little bit of water down at the bottom. What I do is I set my brush here at an angle that preserves the bristles or the shape of the bristles by not leaving them in the cup like this, where all the weight is pushing down on those bristles. So I just put that down sideways, bring that over to the side now. Like I said, we're switching brushes. I'm going to work this light blue background first. I'm going to change it a little bit, I think. We'll see here in just a moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of blue, a little bit of my light blue. You could use a dark blue for this. Doesn't matter too much. I'm just bringing that over here. Okay. Now I'm going to take a bunch of white. I'm going to grab a bunch of white. I'm going to bring the two. Now this is all dried paint around here, except for the pink, which is still a little bit wet. I'm just going to be careful. And I mix this over here on my plate. Now, I'm not necessarily looking for a completely solid color. If I want my background to be nice and solid, then I blend the two colors until I only see one color on the plate. I personally don't want that. I want to have a little bit of a mixture in there, so I blend them, but I leave the mixture a little bit streaky. Okay, let me do that again. I'm going to grab a little bit more blue, a little more white. And this is a little bit of a different blue than what I started with on the original. It's a little brighter, maybe a little bit more tealish instead of just a straight blue. Okay, so that's about good right there. Again, I leave it streaky because I want to have a variation of color in that background. First thing that I'm going to do whenever I'm working in a background that I've got a drawing in place, or I've got something sitting on the canvas and I'm going to work around it. First thing I'm going to do is I go ahead and create an outline around everything. Okay, there's my floor, right? There's my floor. We drew that in the other yesterday. I'm just going to do this. Okay. Come around the top. I am going to paint over my pumpkin. I want to call this a pumpkin. I'm not sure why. My pineapple. I'm going to paint over the entire background. And again, this is a little bit of a darker blue than what I used over there. I'm good with it. I like this color. Now, when I'm painting in this background, I like to use brush strokes, little short choppy brush strokes that go in different directions. Okay, kind of like this. You can use long, smooth brush strokes if you want a cleaner, more even background. Okay, you can do long vertical ones all the way throughout, or long horizontal ones like that. Up to you. Just be consistent. Whichever option you use, be consistent. With those long brush strokes, sometimes it can be a little tricky when you're painting around an object. Okay, so for example, let's say I was doing long horizontal ones like this. I'd have to grab from the edge of the pineapple and work my way out. That can be a little tricky, a little more work, but it can be done. Same if we're going vertically. The little short choppy ones are a shortcut. It allows me to keep, it allows me not have to work so hard, but I also like the way this finish looks on these particular types of paintings. A little choppy background. And I work kind of quickly. Right, I just kind of do this. I don't need to have an exact, perfectly even color throughout. Okay, hang on 1 second. The trick though is to mix enough color that you don't run out part way, so you don't have to remix your paint. Also, you can add a little bit of water. Dip your brush in your water cup. Bring in a little bit of water. Thin out your paint just a touch. So you don't want to thin it out so much that it becomes really transparent, unless that's the look you're going for. Acrylic paint is such that you can, using water, thin it out enough where it actually takes on a little bit of a watercolor effect. Acrylic paint is pretty versatile. It can look a little like watercolor, and you can also make it look like an oil painting. So lots of advantages to using acrylic paint. You know, though, even oil paint, you can also wash it using thinners, not water. You can't use water on oil paint, but you can use solvents to thin it out, and it will give you a watercolor-like effect. Anyway, let's get that background in. If you're new to the page and you missed at the beginning, I talked about the events that are coming up on Painting with Jesse over the month. I don't think that I went through all of them, though. I should have. I should have showed you guys. We got about, currently on the schedule, another 4 or 5 events before the end of, I think it's another 4 events before the end of June. I'm going to be in, next week I take off on vacation for about 9 days to Mexico. I'm going to be visiting places that I've been wanting to visit for a long time. And one of my sessions is going to be from out there. I don't know what I'm painting yet. On the calendar, I have it listed as a question mark. And I don't know the exact date yet, but I am going to be live streaming something around, some type of Mexican theme, something related to my trip, perhaps. I don't know if they're going to be the monarch butterflies. For those of you that may not know, or perhaps many of you do, monarch butterflies make a yearly migration between between parts of Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And so I might do something around the monarch butterflies. This isn't I'm not going for that, right? But I don't think it's the right season for it. I think the migration happens sometime in November, around the Day of the Dead, which is partly why And I don't want to get this wrong. I'm not trying to, I don't know the full story behind it. If I'm getting this wrong, I apologize if anybody out there knows. But I believe the migration happens sometime in November. Either way, I'm going to be painting something really cool, and probably I'm leaning towards the monarch butterflies, but it could also be like a Frida Kahlo style painting. It could also be something related to some kind of scenery with a hacienda or something like that. We'll see. Anyway, that you'll see the question mark on the calendar. It's because that's what's happening around that time. But I will be streaming live at least once from out there and doing one of our sessions. So should be fun. But okay, there's my background. Like I said, a little bit random when I paint like this. I think somebody commented, it looks textured and gives it a natural gradient. I like that method. Yes, exactly, Sarah. Exactly. So this does create some texture, almost makes it look like there's a wall. You can create, like there's a wall behind this. But definitely it's a cool finish. I like to use this quite often, but you can kind of play with this method a little bit. One thing that I like to do with my paintings is I like to go and do the edges. When I'm painting on canvas, I don't normally leave my edges stark white. So around the edges, right, the sides of my canvas, I like to match. Whatever I do to the front, I'll take it and wrap it around that edge. Okay, so for example, here I'll come all the way down, bring this blue down, or this light teal color, all the way down to about right there, right where this wraps around. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm not too worried about that side. I'll touch this up later if I need to. I don't have to get over there and look at it to make sure it's perfect. But I do like to paint my edges. Okay. And then let me do the top edge. And then for those of you that may be interested, I know some of you have already seen my post from a week ago, and then I know I've talked about it a little bit briefly on some of my more recent live sessions. I am working on a membership, private group membership here on my Facebook page, but there's going to be a website component to it. Still working on all the particulars. Don't have a lot of details yet, but basically I'm creating a membership for those of you that want to take your painting experience to another level, to a next level. Maybe you want to learn more of the techniques. Maybe you want to, become a, somebody who sells art online, or you just want to be able to teach your grandchildren to paint, or your kids, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of different reasons why you'd want to join a membership like this. But essentially, over the next couple of weeks, I'll be putting out more information about it. But that is something that I'm working on in the background. Live sessions, Zoom sessions, Q&A sessions, more technical short videos, 15, 20 minutes where we work on a particular technique. Just a bunch of different things, guests, artists, and speakers. Like I said, I'm still developing the details, but over the next couple of weeks, I'll be posting more information as I develop that. If you're interested in getting onto the email list, I will be putting out some information on that. But if you want to get on the email list now, so you don't forget, you want to send me an email to paintingwithjesse@gmail.com, paintingwithjesse@gmail.com, and I'll put you on the list. As things develop, I'll send out information that way, as well as posting to Facebook. Okay, no obligation if you're interested in just getting more details. I know sometimes when I post to Facebook, not everybody sees it, and I'm not sure if you guys can hear a little child crying in the background. I am in a professional building next door. They have an adoption agency, I hear a little kid crying in the background. So if you guys are catching that, that is next door. Okay. But anyway, there's that background. Let me give you a little close-up of what that looks like. See the variations in color. Some areas are a little lighter, some are a little bit darker. That variation creates a neat little finish. I can always, if I want to, once this is dry, I can come back and add another layer in the exact same method, and it further refines it a bit more, but I like that. One thing that I will recommend is around the edges of your pineapple. For example, in here, you want to make sure you pull some of that paint. If it's really obvious that you outlined it, just use your brush, pull some of that paint away, and then just touch it up so it goes in different directions. Here over the top of it, it's not as important because we're going to have that the head that we're going to be painting, but here around it, you do want to, if you have really stark lines that you created with your brush, just pull them away a little bit and then paint around them a little bit, okay? But all right, everyone. Carrie Hicks, how's it going? Yay is right. Columbus, Ohio in the house. Pretty awesome. Yeah, so I see you guys were commenting on that girl with her bears. Yeah, she was trying to protect her dogs. From what I read, and I could be wrong, there could be wrong information, but it sounds like the girl was like, I think she was about 17. She was a 17-year-old girl that was out there saving her dogs. So, you know, good on her. I'm sure that that bear would have probably gotten at least one of those. The big black dog, it looked like when the bear smacked it, it took off. But the other little dogs were persistent, and I'm sure that the bear would have probably eventually grabbed one of those. But okay, let's talk about the base now. The table, the floor, or whatever it is that your pineapple is sitting on. I'm going to stick with a purple lavender color. I got the mixture. If you don't have any of this color, I've got a bit of purple blue that I've already kind of mixed. Might not be intense enough. We'll see here in a moment. Might need to darken it up a bit. But I've got a purple, blue, and white mixture where I created a nice lavender color. It's more of a blue lavender, whereas, you know, purple or regular lavender tends to be a little bit more purplish. Anyhow, we'll see what this looks like. It may not be enough of a contrast against the sky. Oh, okay, I'm okay with this. This works. So same method. I'm still using my 1-inch brush here. I could go to a smaller brush if I need to. If your painting isn't large enough and you're finding that you're having a hard time getting in between the little edges here on the flowers, switch to a smaller brush. Okay, so I'm going to outline. You'll feel it if you're struggling. And I'm struggling a little bit when I'm getting in between those little areas, like between the pineapple and the flowers. If it's too much of a struggle, and I've got a little area right there that I got to touch up with the colors for the pineapple, here where my pencil line is. Anyhow, if you're struggling a little too much, switch over to a smaller brush. Make it easier on yourself. So just going to go through here. Here we go. Same process that I used for the background, I can use on this. If you want it smoother, maybe it's a tablecloth or something that you've got and it's kind of smoothed out, then you would use these long brush strokes like this. Okay, just smooth it out. Like I said, it can be a little tricky around objects, but get that paint around those objects nice and tight, and then go back to the smoother. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Maybe your tablecloth is a little bit wrinkled or ruffled, and you can kind of play with the brush strokes a little. But if you want a really nice smooth one, then you do long brush strokes. I'm actually liking this better than what I originally did over here for the table, so I think I'm going to leave it. Long, smooth brush strokes. Okay, and just a little bit, I'm going to come in and tighten up the areas around my flowers with the smaller brush. meaning like in here on the inside. I am going to take this paint and bring it around to the edges. Okay, just like that. And then other side. Because I'm painting on an easel, I don't do my very bottom edge till the very end. There we go. Now, just gonna take my small number 5 flat brush here. Actually, you know what? I read that wrong. This is a number 6. Okay, just gonna come in here and 6, 5. They're pretty much almost the same thing. If you've got a 5 or a 6, you're pretty much going to be able to do the same thing. So just using the smaller brush to clean it up, clean things up. Okay, there we go. So take about 2 minutes on this step. If you guys have any comments or questions or anything, put them in the comments section so I can take a look here in just a moment. What's happening, Kinkini? Awesome. So what is it? Somebody earlier, I think, who was it from Australia? Was it Sarah? I think it was Sarah Scott. I don't remember. Let me look. I have to back it up. Somebody else is watching from Australia, and it was like 8 o'clock in the morning when we started. Samantha Burton from Australia also. So is it also, so I could take it over where you are, would probably be at 9 o'clock by now, because it's almost been an hour since we started. So hi, Diana. Yeah, no worries. Don't stress out. It'll be both here on Painting with Jesse on the Facebook page. Simply go to the main page, Painting with Jesse. At the top, you'll see some tabs. One of them says live. Okay, so click on the live setting. Just click on that live tab, and it'll show you all the previous live videos. This one will be at the very top, so you'll be able to watch the recorded session on that. Okay. Also, it'll be on the YouTube page. So if you want, you could head over to the YouTube page now, Painting with Jesse, Jesse, exactly how it's spelled here on the Facebook page. Go over to YouTube. You'll find the live video, this that's going on right now, and you can back it up all the way to the beginning and start from the beginning. Okay, Facebook doesn't allow you to do that. So there's that. Okay, but all right, everyone. So by now, because it's pretty warm where I am, my background is already nice and dry. Okay, I can go ahead and start adding in my the head, the head on my pineapple, my little leaves over the top. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Now, if your background isn't dry enough, if you still got some wet areas, you can either wait, you can use a blow dryer. You always want to have a little blow dryer handy, okay, to quickly dry something if you want to move a little bit more quickly. Or if it's mostly dry, you can still paint the green area right over that slightly wet paint. It'll mix in a little bit, but we do have a mixture of light blues and greens in there, depending on what your background color is. You should be okay. All right. So you know what? To give it a little bit more time, just a little bit more time in case for some of you it is not fully dried yet, I'm going to take my filbert brush. I could also take one of my little small round brush, my pointy thing. I'm just going to grab a little red, and I'm going to come in here, add a little bit of red in there to the center. Now I could add a little bit of black in there later to darken those up, but I'm also going to take some of this red. This is a little bit random. Don't stress too much about trying to match this pattern exactly. It's going to look almost like an abstract. Or what are those Rorschach tests? Okay, just going to go like that. Just adding some of the darker parts to the shading to the flowers. Again, a little bit of a randomness here, okay? You can try to match this as best as you can, but everyone's flower is going to look a little differently. So, all good. So around my edges. Later on, I'll introduce some white and maybe a little bit of a different shade of pink. Okay, there we go. Other side. And I know I'm moving a little bit quickly through this. I'll give you a little time here. Just try to match the patterns that I'm using in here. It's not super crucial. Okay, again, just finding some areas on the petals to shade in. Oh, to the membership, there is going to be a component for families, adults, families, kids. Okay, for those of you that started following me back when I was doing a whole bunch of kid sessions, those are coming back. I started doing sessions for an older audience, but as I continued making live sessions, I added a kids component to it, kids tutorials, kid-centric stuff. And although I haven't done as many the last couple of months, I am bringing those back, and they're going to play a nice role in the membership. Kiddos will get a chance to come in and learn a little bit of, nothing too heavy, right? Don't want to overwhelm people, but kid-centric events, you'll have some nice options there to play with. Pretty much from beginner to intermediate and even a little advanced, you'll get a benefit out of it. But like I said, kids will definitely play a nice component with this. There we go. All right. Let's see. Somebody asked a question. How long have you been painting, please? Self-taught. Yes. Great question. Absolutely. So I started dabbling with painting probably about 15 years ago. And then sometime around maybe 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I started to get a little bit more involved. This is something I grew up. I can say I've been an artist since I was a really young kid. I always liked to draw. I taught myself how to draw from a really young age, just from practice. I can draw people. I can draw portraits and things like that. And again, just mainly through practice, just practiced a lot. When I picked up painting, I started basically doing the same thing. I think I picked up a book on the basics on oil painting, how to, what mediums to use here and there. And, but there was a lot of intuitiveness involved in it. When I would see a painting, I could imagine the brush strokes and things like that. And through trial and error, taught myself how to paint. I started with oils, which is a pretty tricky medium to work with, messy, and can be a little smelly, but I love it. It's a really awesome medium. And then about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started dabbling with acrylic, started doing with acrylic. I started teaching paint parties. I started doing the paint parties at people's houses. I started a business in 2016 around paint parties, celebrating people's birthdays, housewarmings, anniversaries, things like that. So I started teaching on a regular basis, large groups of people in person how to paint. I love it. I really love it. I enjoy art in general, but sharing it with others is pretty awesome. Last year when COVID hit, I took the opportunity to start doing stuff online because I had been planning on doing it for a while, just hadn't had the time. So when COVID hit, it allowed me to pivot and start. But yeah, I love painting, art in general, almost any art, sculpture, ceramics, pottery. I guess they're all kind of related, but you name it, as long as it's art, for the most part, I love doing it. But painting is just my thing. Painting and drawing. I love painting people. I love painting figurative work, and I love teaching how to paint. So yeah, Diana, when I post it, so sometime later this week, maybe tomorrow, I'll post a little bit about my membership, a little more details, maybe an email. I'll start an email list for those of you that are interested. When I have more concrete information, I can send it out to you. But yeah, I'm self-taught. I didn't do anything official with schooling or anything like that. So what I like to make sure everybody understands, it's actually an easier pathway than most people think. People get overwhelmed with, oh my God, where do I start? Where do I go? My plan is to make it easy for people that are beginners to novices or intermediates to go to the next steps. But you can start from scratch and be perfectly fine. I just streamlined the detail and information in the tutorials. But like I said, lots of stuff coming in the works around that. I'm still working on all the details. But all right. But thank you for the question. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. I have a love of art, and I hope to continue to share that with others, especially through COVID. I realized how much art, I already knew that it was because it's therapeutic for me on a personal level. But when I started having people that had never painted in their life reaching out, saying how much they loved it, I was just blown away. So we're going to start with the leafy part of the pineapple. I've got this light green here. If you've only got a dark green, you want to lighten it up with a little bit of white or even a little bit of yellow. Okay, try a little bit of yellow, see what that gets you. You're going to get kind of a lime yellow or lime green. But you're going to take a little bit of this. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my teal. You don't need to add teal to this. I'm going to grab a little bit of my teal color. And I'm going to mix that in there. So green and some teal. And then let's see what that looks like. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more. I want to make sure that it contrasts against my background. So if it's a little too similar to the background, not enough contrast, it's not going to look right. So a little more green. I want to add a little more green here. So I got a combination here of teal and green. So let's start with that, see what it looks like against the background, and we'll go from there. If you want, you can just use a dark green for this, and this will work just fine. So the brushes that I've used so far, this big 1-inch brush and my 1/2-inch brush, I'm going to grab those, right? They're sitting in my tin here sideways. There's water in here to about there. Again, this helps preserve the bristles, keeps them straight. Now I'm going to start with my number 6 flat brush for this step. Okay, I'm going to grab some of this green. Now again, hopefully it shows up nicely against the background. What we're going to start with is we're going to start painting the inside here. These little segments on the inside. They're like little spears. Okay, so the first one is probably on my 16 by 20 inch canvas. It's probably about 3 inches. So all I'm going to do is this. Okay, and then I just paint it in. Nothing fancy, nothing too difficult. Here on the edge where it touches the bottom or the top of the pineapple, I just kind of overlap a little bit, just dab it a bit. I want that the edge to be a little bit undefined, if you will, a little bit almost like blended, so you can't quite tell where the top of the pineapple itself is, where the body of the pineapple ends, and where the leaf begins. Okay, when I do that, So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them on my pineapple. So you can have 3, you can have 5, you can have 6. Going over to the next one. Again, a nice little spear. Okay, you want to be careful with how high you make it, right? Because if you want to leave space for more, you don't want to go too high. You can have little short, pudgy ones or long, skinny ones, all up to you. What's up, Adriana? How are you? Are you painting or are you just hanging out? Or are you stopping by to say hello? So, Diana, great question. All right, let me show you guys what happens when you have full-bodied paint. Great paint to use, thicker. All you do so you do a couple of things. Let's say that I'm working with this green. Okay, I've got my green mixture over here. You can do one of two things. Every time you go to scoop up some paint, you can take your brush, dip it in your water cup. So I just dip it in my water cup and I bring some of that water over with me. Okay, so again, I dip the brush into the water, bring it over, mix it into the paint really quickly, and then it makes it easier to get that paint to flow onto the canvas. Or I've got my mixture here, right? I pull some of the paint over to the side, or you can do it right there. Dip your brush into your water a few times, bring over some droplets of water, 2, 3, 4 times, as long as you don't make the paint really runny, and then you mix that water into the paint, and then you can test it. So you don't want it runny, and you can test for runniness by doing this. If the paint really starts to run down that plate really fast, you got too much water in there. You need more paint. But you can test this. You can go like this. That paint should very easily stick to your plate like that. Okay? If you're using full-bodied paint, basically all it is a thicker paint. For those of you that aren't quite familiar with that, and just add a little water as you go. Most people that work with acrylic paint will do that. Every time they go to get paint, they'll dip their brush into the water first, bring it over, and then they do that and bring it up. Okay? What I like to do is I like to mix my paint over to the side, right? Or if it's already pre-mixed paint, I have it on the plate, bring it over to the side like this, and then take water droplets, bring it over, mix that water into the paint. So that way now I have a consistent mixture of water and paint. If I'm introducing the water as I go each time, I can have a little bit of an inconsistent finish to my paint when I apply it to the canvas, which is okay. It can work. It just depends on what it is that you're doing. So here we go. Another one. Last one there. So that's how you do it. A little bit of water at a time. Yep, a little bit of water at a time. Each time you go to dip your paint, water, bring it over, really quickly mix it and go. Or you mix it all together in one batch, and then you just keep pulling from there. Instead of going to your water cup first, and then to the paint, and then to the canvas, you just go from right here. This is normally how I do it, okay? But all right, there's the center part of my pineapple, this part right in here. Later on, we'll outline it. Later on, maybe I'll add a little bit of teal in there. We'll see. Or I might just leave it green. I kind of like this look, okay? You know what? I've only tried the gel retarder a couple of times. Okay, when I really want my paint to take a long time to dry, to give me a little more time to work with it. I have. When I want it to work a little bit more like oil paint, because oil paint takes days to dry sometimes, right? Depending on your environment. When you want a little more time, then yeah, I have used it a couple of times. I've also used the solvent. It's not a solvent, it's a mixture, a medium that thickens your paint, so you can do 3-dimensional stuff. I've used that stuff. Pretty cool. But all right, so here's the center. Okay, just a bunch of these little pointy spear-looking things. Are almost just like leaves all the way up the middle. Then you're going to want to go over to your sides, starting at the bottom. These almost like look like little bird heads. So this is the body of the bird, comes over, curls over, comes back down. So somewhere down towards the bottom, it's going to draw it first. Kind of like that. Okay. Okay, and then what I like to do with this is I'll take my paint and I'll bring it, smooth it out in the shape of the leaf. So long curved brush strokes. And then again here on the edge, I just want to blend a little bit. I can even use my finger to kind of I don't want a really stark edge. It's a personal preference. Some people will prefer a stark, defined edge between the two. Either one will work. Let's go over to the other side. And then maybe this one's a little smaller, a little shorter. Kind of do that. Okay. Let's rough that edge in a bit. Okay. Before I continue making more of those, I'm just going to add here these little curly ones on the side, one little tiny one. If you need to switch to a smaller brush, you can. I'm still using my number 6 flat brush here. If you need more control, smaller brushes give you more control. Okay, so little curlies here on the edges. Everyone has a different touch, a different feel. So brushes, while many brushes can do the same thing, preference plays a big role in which brush you're going to use for what. Okay, so next one is this one here. Now again, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4 of these little spikes in the little spear things in the middle, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4 of these on the side. So we're going to try to match them up. Here's another one. Now I'm not adding little curly points to them just yet. Little pointy things here. Those come in later with my little small round brush. For now, just the general shape. One step at a time. Okay, so there's that. Again, long brush strokes. Just keeps it nice and smooth. Okay. Come over to the other side. And they're even, right? What I do on one side has a symmetrical partner over on the other side. And it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical, but close. We'll be adding these here in a little bit. I know there's a couple little extras in there. There we go. It does look like an asparagus spear. How funny. Yes. A little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic. Throw it on the grill and have a yummy little snack. Okay, next one. So right about over here. Come over. Okay. Over to the other side. All right. Over here. Last one. And you notice they get a little bit smaller. Well, they start small, get a little larger towards the center, and then the one on top is a little smaller. Little bit. They're not like all exactly the same size and shape. This is a bit of an impressionistic. Sorry, not impressionistic. Not a total realistic pineapple. We want a general likeness. All right. Just going through and touching up where I can see a lot of the canvas coming through. Just cleaning it up a little. All right. And then, so These aren't necessary to add, but on my new one, I'm missing this one here, and then the one that's on the other side. So in here, if you want to add one, you can. I'm going to go ahead and do it just to be consistent. You don't really need it. Okay, there we go. As far as the leafy part, we're going to leave that alone for now. We're going to let it dry. Take about a minute or two to finish this off. Later, we're going to come in and add the dark parts and maybe some of those lighter blue areas on the inside. But that works. Even if you just left it green with some dark outlines, it'll be perfectly fine. Okay. All right. I'm just relaxing, drinking a little bit of my Starbucks. If you guys have any questions, ask them away, put them in the comments. As I give you guys a little time to implement. Just a little bit before we start adding more detail to the inside of the pineapple, we're going to come in and add the little green leaves down at the bottom. Okay. Yep. I am most definitely going to be using some glitter later. Got some green glitter, gold glitter, red glitter. Absolutely. Okay. I'll show you guys. For those of you that aren't familiar with glitter, I'll show you guys. Adriana says, I finished my pineapple drawing last night. Let me see, Adriana. I know I asked you if you were painting today or trying to finish my sunflowers, just checking in. Awesome. Okay, cool. Adriana Sunflower. I know that's your flower there, sunflowers. But okay. Really quickly, same brush, my number 6 flat brush. You can also use the filbert for this one. You know what? Just to you give the filbert a little bit more use. My little number 5 filbert. I'm going to take a little bit of my dark green, okay? And I pull it over to the side. Take a little bit of my green, the light green, mix the two together. I'll leave these kind of swirly. So again, when I say swirly, I mean it's not a perfect blended mixture of the two. Okay? Now, if you need to introduce water to it because your paint is really thick, dip your brush into the water, bring that over, mix it in. Maybe do that a couple of times. When you add water to it, it is going to blend things up a little bit more. So maybe take a little bit of either color, add it after the fact, and here we go. So right in here, we got a leaf that comes out. First, I draw the outline of it. Comes back. And then I could do this with my brush from the center. I come out like that, just feather it outwards. I'm already giving the, even though this isn't the finished product, I'm already giving the leaf some dimension, texture, a little bit of texture. Over on this side, same thing. Little leaf that comes down, kind of does that. So I draw the outer edge of it. Then I could also draw a little line down the middle like that. And then come in from there, work my way outwards. Nice and easy. We'll come in and add a little bit of detail later. Not a lot, but a little tiny touch-ups. Oh, I did, Kinkini. I definitely I saw those. You did great. I responded to you. They look fantastic. I love those. Thank you for sending those over to me. So all of you folks, especially if you're new, I like to ask that you guys send me pictures of your masterpieces, and you can send them to me through Facebook via Messenger here on Painting with Jesse, or you can email those to me at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Okay, either way is fine. I like to share those with the followers of the page. So let's say a day or two from now, when I've accumulated a bunch of your pictures, I'll post them. Okay, but send that over to me. Those would be fantastic. There you go, Diana. So let's see. You have Stickles glitter in small bottles, nice needle nose tip, and then spread out with a finger or brush. There you go. Fantastic. That's right. What's up, Penny? Sounds good, Penny. Thank you for coming on and saying hello. Hope you and your husband are doing fantastic. Okay. Yeah, there you go, Diana. Water. Water is your friend. Big time. Makes things nice and versatile. Okay. So let's talk about the pineapple itself now. The base, our fleshy part of our pineapple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my my number 0 round brush, a little pointy thing. Okay. Now you don't have to use a round brush. You can use either a larger round brush, like a number 3, would work just fine, depending on the size of your canvas, depending on how thick you want your lines to be. Or you could use a small flat brush. Okay, again, this is my number 6 flat brush. Either one of these will work for what we're about to do, and I'm going to demonstrate it with both. This is obviously a little pointy brush, and this is a little square rectangular brush. I'm going to start with a little rectangular brush. These are different brushes, and they do something similar. Okay, I'm dipping my brush. Now for this part, bring some of this dark green over. I'm going to take a little bit of water. For this part of it, it is important that I add a bit of water to my paint. Even though my paint is already nice, flowy paint, nice fluid paint, I'm adding a bit of water to it to make it a little easier to make thin lines with. Once I've mixed water in there a few times, I will also take my brush and I'll do this. I'll press it against the plate a few times. Okay, what that does, when I press the brush sideways against the plate, it makes the edge, the bristles, it flattens them together. It allows me to make skinny lines with it. So I'm going to start, I'll start right here. So this line, I'm just going to do this. I'm barely touching the edge of my canvas. I'm using my finger here. This is dry. Place my pinky up against the canvas. Now I can use that to help support my hand as I make these skinny lines. I like doing these nice kind of straightish skinny lines with a flat brush because it's just easier to work this way. Okay, you can also use a round brush, right? So I'm going to put my flat brush to the side for a moment. Okay, load up on the paint, and then I'm going to just come down to this next line. Still pinky against the canvas. I want to make sure that it's nice and dry. Okay. All right. So either one will work. Very different brushes, but they create similar results. Which one you use is it depends on taste and how you feel when you start to paint across your canvas. Whichever brush feels correct is the one that you're going to use, right? Somebody might tell you, oh no, I only make thin lines with a round brush. I don't like using a flat brush for my thin lines. Somebody else might tell you, I use a filbert for that. I like using my filbert number 3 for my skinny lines. There's no rule that says you have to be consistent and use the same dang brush every time. You use the brush that works best for that particular part of your painting. And as you paint and become more proficient and more experienced, you'll start to know which ones you can do what with. And your best friend Linda may have trouble painting with your brush choice, but she has a different one that she uses and it'll work for her. Okay? Okay, Adriana, sounds good. I'll check it out. I will check it out. So there's my thin lines in one direction. Now I'm going to go in the other direction. Moral of the story is that even though there are some brushes that specialize in certain things, and in a general sense may make it easier for most people to use that brush for that particular thing. Somebody else may have an easier time using an unconventional brush. All of that to say that you want to experiment to find what's best for you. It's how I did it. When I first started painting, I only had flat brushes and I had round brushes. Different size flat brushes, different size round brushes. Had no idea what a filbert brush did or what it was. When I would see the name filbert, no idea what it was. I thought it was a person's name, right? A filbert, a brand, the name of a person that created that style of brush or that brand. I had no idea. I had an idea of what a fan brush was, but I didn't use it. So most of my early paintings were done with flat brushes and round brushes. But okay. As far as brand Kinkini, or there's a few different ones that I like. Artists Loft brushes have a different sets of quality brushes. So they have a basic, they have a medium, and they have a really good quality. Normally I use Artist Loft brand, but there are quite a few out there. I have a tutorial on brushes that I did about 2 months ago. If you go check that out, you'll find it under the Lives tab. Really good information in there if you're looking to use, to kind of see what different brushes do. And I go through and show you technique and stuff like that. Some basics. All right, just going to take some of this green and I'm going to come around, outline the outside of my pineapple. Now, my pineapple has a little bit more brown in it. I just realized I put paint where I didn't want to have some there, so I'm just going to take a paper towel here, dip it in a little bit of that water, and should be able to remove most of that. Still relatively wet, so there we go. So just outlining a little bit. Now, my pineapple has a lot of brown in it, so I'm going to take a little bit of brown, mix it in with some of my green to darken up my green a bit, and also kind of muddies it a little bit, green and the brown mixture. I'm just going to come in here and some of my lines are going to get some of this brown green mixture. So again, a little bit of brown. I just kind of overlap what I've already done. So green and brown creates a little bit of a muddy green. If I use too much green, my pineapple, too much green in my outline, and I need to make my pineapple more green, the inside, more of a greenish inside. If I use a lot of browns in there like I did, then I want to add some of these darker green brown lines for the little segments. Lots of little steps in this painting, even though it looks, I know it looks kind of basic and simple, but there are lots of little steps. Okay, for now, that's going to do it as far as the outlining. Take a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Those angle brushes are really nice, Diana. I love those. The little angle brushes are fantastic. They create some really nice, skinny, it's easy to make nice, skinny, long lines with those angle brushes, especially the stiffer synthetic bristle brushes. Um, I really love those. When I'm making stems and things like that, say I'm painting a flower, I need a nice long stem, whether it's straight or slightly curved, those angular or angle brushes are really nice to use for that. Okay, now we got the outlines done. What I'm going to do is I am going to switch over to my little round brush. Okay, my number 0. Again, if you got number 2, number 3, I think I just put paint on my nose. Very nice. I'm going to take some of that green brown mixture. I'm going to make it a little darker, a little more brownish. You can also add a little bit of dark blue if you have it to darken it up even further. I'm going to take a little bit of water, bring some of that water over. I just dip my brush into the water. I bring that over to my mixture. Maybe going to take a little bit more brown. What I'm going to do is this. Some of these little kind of subtle spiky things on the edges of your pineapple, I'm going to add those in now. So I'm going to be drawing with this mixture of paint that I just used and this brush. So whenever I'm drawing, whenever I'm making skinny lines, I make sure that I add a little bit of water to the mixture. Also, when I press the brush against the plate and I spin it, makes that point even smaller. Makes it easier to make skinny lines with. Now I'm painting on my easel here. I like to put my non-painting hand up on the table. Creates a nice platform to put my painting hand over, and it stabilizes my brush stroke. So I'm trying to do this where you guys can see what I'm doing, not block. So here I'm going to go like this. Okay, something like that. Maybe we got another one over here. You guys all have seen these little spiky things on the edges of, now it looks like I just gave my pineapple a pair of eyes. The weird pineapple with some weird eyes. So, yeah, yes, I sure do, Diana. I usually, whenever I'm doing something complex, I give the followers an option to use a traceable. I know some people really don't like to freehand draw. They want, their painting to look really nice, so they want to use a traceable. Yes, so I typically do provide a traceable that you can either download directly from the event page, or you can email me for it, and I'll send you the PDF. So I'm just going through and adding a few of these little spiky things, and not all of them are going to be exactly the same. Some of them are a little more subtle. Okay, it's just doing that. But I always recommend, what I like to recommend is, if you're going to use the traceable, practice the drawing session part of it on a scratch piece of paper. The more you practice, and this goes for everyone, I've been drawing since I was a kid, but if I stop drawing for a while, sometimes like the more intricate stuff, like somebody's face, like a portrait, it helps if I get back into it by practicing. So practice is really, really crucial. Not only that, but drawing, even if you're not so much interested in drawing, you just want to paint. When you're painting stuff like this, by practicing your drawing, it helps you to see proportion, and ratios are really important, right? The relationship of one part of your pineapple to the rest of it, if you're using a reference picture, that kind of thing. So I always recommend practicing your drawing. Even if you don't necessarily think you're going to be drawing often, it will help your paintings. So just going through and adding these little things. I'll give you guys a close-up in a moment. So again, some of these are really subtle and barely noticeable. I just barely touch the tip of the brush to the pineapple. It's a nice, subtle little touch. Yeah, it's kind of what this looks like up close. Those tiny little, Yeah, whimsical paintings I love those. Those are great. Absolutely. I get you, Diana. Everybody has a different style, everybody has a different preference, and you know, most definitely if you don't care to be drawing too much, that's okay. It's all good. You can still be a really successful painter without having much of a drawing background or even necessarily what you might consider personally as drawing skill. You could have a really nice touch with your style of painting when you're painting a person or an animal, etc., even if it doesn't necessarily have a super realistic component to it. It doesn't have to. It does not have to. There's all so many different types of art out there, right? So yeah, most definitely. Whimsical paintings are pretty dang cool. So work on those little touches. Again, let me hold this up to show you guys kind of close, show you what I did, and let me kind of explain it a little bit. So again, I just used my round brush. All I did was create little thin lines where I had a little point, and then those little lines that come off of it, almost like I start to draw a triangle, but instead of closing it at the bottom, I stretch out the edges to the sides. Okay. Now I don't do that to every single segment completely. Like for example, that segment doesn't have one, neither does that one. Some of them are really subtle like that. And there's no real plan to this. I just kind of go through there and add those wherever I feel I need to have one. When I add in the glitter and stuff like that, I'll use that to refine and clean up and even make some areas stand out more than others. But for now, that's all you really need for those little tiny spiky things. I'm sure you guys have all seen those on pineapples. Pineapples sometimes look almost like alien eggs. If you take off the leafy part, almost like you got this alien egg, some alien creature laid an egg, and that's what the pineapple looks like. Excuse me. So work on that for just a little bit. Yes. Thank you, Kinkini. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this guy here is one of the more difficult tutorials that we've done on painting with Jesse. I've got a pre-prep video that teaches you how to paint this kind of impressionistic rose. It's actually simple in process, but sometimes tricky to get the fine touch involved. And I used an angle brush. I know you said you like using the angle brush, but I used an angle brush to create those. But yeah, there's a tutorial on it. There's a pre-prep video where I teach you. I go into detail on how to make the roses, and then the actual painting session, we create everything, and then the roses. So you get a little time to practice on those roses. If you're interested, go to the live tab on the main Painting with Jesse page. Scroll down. You might have to scroll down about a month and a half. I think that's when we did that. But yeah, absolutely. That was a fun one. It's tricky, a little bit of a difficult painting in comparison to what we've done in the past. But definitely go check that out. Lots of people did such a really nice job on that. Lots of people surprised themselves at how nice of a job they did. But yeah, definitely go check it out. Beautiful, fun painting to make. But okay, now I'm going to go through my number 3 round brush. Just going to scoop up some green and bring it over to the side. Again, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop up some water, bring it over, 2 or 3 drops, making my paint easier to work with, easier to draw with, and make skinny lines with. Okay. Then I'm going to take my brush, I spin it. What are we going to do? Glad you asked. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start adding some outlines to this stuff up here. So whatever's prominent, whoops, actually I'm going to start in the middle, okay, where we started to begin with. Notice my pinky. My pinky's touching the canvas. Yeah, come up here. Okay. If you need to make darker lines, you could add, if you have dark blue, you can mix that into your green to make it a little bit darker. You could add a touch of brown. So you can use black also, a touch of black to darken things up. I don't mind using black to make a color darker. I know there are some artists that shy away from that a bit. And when I get into more technical videos, especially if you do join the membership, we'll go into things like that. We're going to go into more detail on creating darks and light colors. The easy way to do it is to add, if you're trying to make a lighter color, you add white. If you're trying to make a darker color, you add black. That's the easy way to do something like that. However, for a more appealing painting, you don't do it that way. You add, there's a color wheel, there's color theory involved, and you add colors depending on where they land on the color wheel to make a darker version of whatever it is that you're working on. That's, like I said, it's much more, not much more, but it's more of a complex approach, but it is a more aesthetically pleasing way to mix colors. Okay, but anyway, if you don't have a dark blue, you can't, or a dark brown, you can use a little bit of black. You can use dark blue, dark brown, and a little bit of black in there to make a nice dark green. But you only add those colors sparingly. Okay, a little bit at a time. But all right, so I did my center. My center's here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the outside. These little guys out here, these little ones that look like little birds. Okay, there we go. Sorry if I'm blocking the canvas a bit. And try to do this where I'm not blocking stuff. So you guys can see what it is that I'm doing as I do it. Okay, let me see here. I'm not adding these little pointy things on the ends just yet. I'll add those last. If you have any trouble getting those thin lines or the paint to spread onto your canvas, make sure you add water to that mixture. Okay, make sure water is very important, especially when you're making small, skinny lines. It just helps quite a bit. Okay, you guys see my hand? Non-painting hand touches the canvas. Use that as a platform. Back to the umbrella. That was again, I mentioned that it's one of the more difficult paintings that we've done. I'm painting with Jesse, and I didn't get a lot of people join in on that. Or it was a nice size group that was there, but about halfway through, most people were gone. And when I had people send me their paintings, when I asked for people to send me their paintings, there were very few people that did. So I suspect two things. It was technically difficult for many people. So they didn't like what they produced, and so they didn't send pictures over because they know that I like to share those. Or they didn't finish because there was a lot of steps to it. And then I think also, as far as the attendance, a lot of people didn't go because they were intimidated by the project. What I like to tell everyone, if you're looking to expand your painting, your your abilities. Yes, I understand you want to create nice paintings, so you stick to stuff that you can already do, and that's great. I totally get it. But if you want to stretch your abilities, if you want to push your boundaries a little bit, where you actually will improve through that kind of stress that you put yourself through, and your brain, you kind of force your brain to stretch a bit, you want to tackle paintings that are a little harder than what your normal level is. If you're looking to improve, right? If you're happy with where you are and you like a particular style of painting and that's all you want to keep doing, absolutely no problem. There's plenty of that on Painting with Jesse. But yes, the more technical, more difficult ones is where you actually make your brain, expand a bit. You did great on yours, Robin. I remember, you did a really, really nice job on that. Yeah, the umbrella one was, like I said, if you nail it, it's a pretty piece. It's a fun one. So I did two of them, right? I did the original one for the session, which is this one here. That's the original one that I used. And then the second one that I made during the live session, I took it home and I have that in my living room on a little tripod, a little easel, a tall easel. So, but yeah, that's a nice one. That's a really nice one. But anyway, folks, so what I did is I went through and I outlined, right, all these little leafy parts. And then what I can do is on the little points, like in here, maybe I darken these up a little bit more. Bring some of the paint down the center. Now, again, realistically, if I was about to say pumpkin, if my pineapple is a little bit more of a brown color, then the leaves perhaps would probably be more accurate if I made them a little more dried up, a little older. These are really green, leafy leaves right now. Green, they almost look like, it's still in the ground, I guess. But technically speaking, or realistically speaking, it'd probably be more accurate if my leaves were greener or brown, a little more of a brown color, a little more of a gold, and had some more darks mixed in there. But you get to make your own choice, right? If you like the way, whatever your pumpkin is looking like right now, if you like it, you don't have to get super realistic with our paintings if we don't want. Just going through and adding the little pointy things on the ends, adding that dark green color, and we move on. Now, if I wanted a little bit more of that teal color mixed into like on the original, so I would switch brushes here, go over to my 1/2-inch brush. Haven't used it for a moment. It was sitting in the water, so I want to take some of that water out so it's not saturated and dripping onto my plate or onto my canvas. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my teal. Okay, I don't need a lot. So whatever I scoop up, I bring it over to the edge and just wipe some of it off. And then I can come in here and just start brushing some of this in. Depends on what you're looking for. I can work this in pretty quickly. Don't forget, folks, if you're falling behind or if I feel like I'm going too fast, don't worry about it. Pay attention, watch what I'm doing. Oftentimes, some people like to watch during the live and not paint, and then they'll come back and paint with a recorded session, listening to the instructions a second time. Okay? So if you happen to be falling behind, you're trying to keep up, not to stress. You'll come back and paint with the recorded session. All right, so I'm not adding this teal everywhere, just brushing it down a little bit, blends in with that background green a bit. I want to see a little bit of both colors peeking through. Now this teal that I added makes the inside of the The leaves match the outside a little, and that's okay. Okay. Just added a bit of that in there, and then let's see, take a little step back. Always take a step back, look at your painting from a distance. I'm going to touch up my leaves here in a moment. We're going to get back to adding detail to the flowers, maybe refining a little bit of the inside of that pineapple, but we are getting really close. Well, not super close, but we're getting close to the last steps. There you go, shading. Shading is, if you can learn shading, your paintings will take a whole different dimension. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little bit of the dark green. I can use my 1/2-inch brush again, and I'm just gonna come in here, maybe just the top part of my leaf, using the skinny edge of the brush. Okay, I'm using it to create little thin lines going sideways from the center to the outside of the leaf. I don't need this to be super detailed or defined. I don't want the leaves to be the focal point of my painting, so just leaving them a little bit with some detail, but I'm not going too crazy with it. Okay, so something like that. And then later, like I was mentioning earlier, when we add the glitter to it, it makes a really big difference and makes things pop very nicely. Okay, so take a moment on that. Yeah, there you go. That's another way, Diana. The long wooden stick. So especially if you've got a really big canvas that you're working on, you can use, I don't remember the technical name for these devices, but it's a long wooden handle. On the end of it, typically you can also use a cane for this, like a cane where you hook the top part of the cane over the top of your canvas. Now you've got this stick, right, that creates a support for your hand, and you can move that around. You can kind of do this, right? If you imagine the cane over the top of your canvas, it's hanging down. Now you can kind of use that to move it around, and it puts a nice little, it makes a nice support for your hand. As you move that cane around, your hand sits right on top of it. Now you've stabilized your hand. Norman Rockwell, other painters, they use that stick instead of a cane. The end has a nice kind of a soft, kind of leathery or rubber ball, really soft, excuse me, that they can actually place up against the canvas as long as it's dry. They'll place it against the canvas, leaning up against it. Now you do the same thing. You put your hand over it, and it stabilizes your hand. For really large canvases, that helps a lot. The cane one where you can put the cane over the top, it makes it so you're not touching your surface. You're going over the edges, right? Less likely to smudge any of your paint. Yeah, the wooden stick is a nice one. Yeah, definitely. But all right, so I'm going to take a little bit of brown. Now I'm going to switch brushes. Let's go. You can use the filbert for this, or a small flat. I'm going to use my filbert. And remember, the filbert is a brush, has a nice rounded head. It looks kind of like a flat brush, but when you look up close, it's actually rounded, skinny over the top like that. I'm just going to take a little bit of brown like this. Okay, bring it over to the side. My plates end up looking a mess whenever I'm done painting. That's how it works. Unless I go through and set up, when I do my portraits, especially for skin colors, when I'm doing skin colors, I'll set up my shades in order from dark to light. The values, right? I change the values. Let's say I'm doing somebody's face and they got all kinds of different skin tones going in there. I'll set all those up nice and in order, and then I'll apply those individually, and it doesn't look as messy as this. But this kind of painting, I like to keep a little more loose. But just taking a little bit of yellow, mixing it in with that brown, creating a deep kind of a gold brown. And I'm just going to use this. It might be a little too dark to start. We'll see. And I'm just going to add some darker areas Again, I like to, for stuff like this, I don't want my color to be super blended. I want to see a little bit of browns and golds in there, and I can just use this to paint in here and there. Very loose with my brush strokes here. Almost smudging, and I don't have to cover every bit of these little segments in. I'm just adding little touches of this throughout. Gives my pineapple a little bit more dimension, a little bit more of depth. By introducing this new color. Experiment, folks. The best way to learn. You're not always going to get it right, and you're not always going to make something that you like. But experimentation, especially if you're experimenting like on a mixed media pad, I wouldn't experiment too much on a canvas at first. Once you get a better hang of things, you can start to experiment on your canvas, but that's a real quick way to speed up your learning process by experimenting. Like I said, some things are going to work, some things not so much, but you will learn. You will learn. You'll also learn to loosen up a little bit by experimenting. Try this, try that. Does that work? Ooh, that didn't work. Whoops. Those two colors mixed together, you don't have to know color theory, it helps. But two colors, when you mix them together, they make a muddy color, and you're not looking for a muddy color, then you know that's a mixture you're not going to use unless you're looking for a muddy color. All right, let's see. Where else? Just going to take some of my little cream color. I'm going to add it to my brown and gold mixture, just kind of make something sort of in between. And holding my brush near the back, very loose. You can also use your finger to blend. Pick your spots. When we add the gold glitter over this, it's going to look really nice, especially because so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding the glitter over, the gold glitter over these brown areas, these gold brown areas that I'm adding. Adds a nice touch. I use, of course, the green. I'm going to add that to the green leafy parts. All right. All right. Yeah, I actually have a portrait. I have a couple of portraits here. Are you talking about, Kinkini, are you talking about showing you how to paint a portrait, how to create a portrait? Because I have thought about that. That's a much more complex process, and maybe something that we would develop over like 3 days, 4 days. We can start with a simple portrait and then work from that. I can teach you, if you're looking for the drawing component, we can draw it, the basics of drawing a face, because there are some common tricks, let's say, whenever you're drawing a general face. The eyes sit in a particular area of the face, generally speaking. The spacing between the eyes and most people is an eye's length. So if you have two eyes, right, you got the two eyes. In between your two eyes, for most people, the length in between there is the length of one of the eyes. Okay, real close. You can use little tricks like that to give you more realism in your paintings. But I'm not sure if that's what you mean, or if you want me to show you one of my portraits that I've done. So let me know in the comments. But all right. So as far as my pineapple itself, the body of the pineapple, I could go in there and further define it, adding a little more subtle tones inside. Here, I can actually come in here and shade some more up in there. I kind of like the way things are looking. What I'd like to do next is concentrate on those flowers. Okay, so let's finish up with the flowers. We'll add the gold and green and red glitters, and we'll call it a day. So down here with the flowers, the flower has red, okay, has red, has a dark kind of burgundy color that I did mix with blue or black, okay, probably, I think I actually used black for this. If you don't have black, don't worry about it too much. You can add a little bit of blue and a little bit of yellow. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Don't want to get too far ahead. Yes, so drawing of a simple little portraits. Okay, we could do some portrait stuff in the future. Absolutely. So what I'm going to do for my flower is this. I've got my red right here. I'm going to bring that over. Okay, don't need a lot of red. I'm going to take some white. Okay, and let's grab, what did I do with the rest of my white? Do I need to pour some more out? I do. Okay, don't need a lot, but yeah, portraits, when you learn a few little tricks, it really, really improves your realistic, like when you're drawing somebody, right? The realism in your portraits. A few little tricks that really go a long way. So I got my white here. I've got some red somewhere in the middle between the two. I'm going to mix and create a nice pink. A different pink than what's on the background now. A little darker than what's on the background. So that pink that's in the background, I want something a little darker. So I've got my red, I got my white, and then I got that pink that's a little bit deeper. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to come in here and just start. I'm going to start to apply it here, certain parts of my flower. Now these flowers are impressionistic, meaning they give you the impression that they're flowers. We're not looking for realism right now. If we want some realistic flowers, then we spend a lot more time fleshing them out. But I'm not looking for that. So I'm just using different shades of this paint, these colors, to give us some semi-impressionistic, semi-realistic flowers. Primarily, I'm using an impressionistic technique to create these. And so just, again, going in, picking some random spots in here. Now, I'm not covering up all that original base of pink that we started with. I want some of that peeking through. I overlap my colors a little. Okay, back over here. Okay. I'm going to go over to the white now. Just cleaned up my brush a little, swirled it around my water cup. I'm just going to scoop up some white. Okay. I'm going to come over, maybe over here. Back over to this one. You could paint you could lay the paint down a little thick to give it dimension, a little bit of a 3D effect. What happens with these flowers, what makes them look like flowers, is all these subtle different tones of color that we're using in here. Okay. So again, I'm still using some of this white. And you notice that I'm just kind of coming in here and a little bit at a time. Some of this white that I'm adding right now is blending in with the background, creating a little bit of a lighter pink here, a little bit of maybe almost completely white here or there. But it's these subtle changes they're creating the realism, the impressionism in these flowers. Not super defined brush strokes. Okay. I've got a little bit of a dark blue here. Okay, just a little bit. I'm going to take some of that, mix it with my red. Don't need a lot of that blue, just a little bit. By making sure that there's plenty of blue in there, you're going to get more of a burgundy than a purple. Somewhere it's like a you'll have to kind of just work it in a little bit at a time. Play with the mixture. But what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to come in here, watch what starts to happen right here. The added little extra color in here, this deeper color, starts to add that little extra dimension. It makes this part of the flower look more like a hole, right? These flowers, they tend to have like a little tunnel in the center. And there we go. Now I'm going to take my red, I flatten the filbert against the plate, both sides, flip it back and forth. I want that edge really skinny. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and start making these little lines away from the center. And you want to curve them a little. Okay, like that. A few of them, don't need a whole bunch of them. Come over to the other side and play with this a little bit with each flower. Now, if I want my reds to be a little deeper, so for these areas that I've already added red to, I can come in here and add another layer of red. Not over the entire areas where I've got red, but just part of them. This additional red layer will create a deeper red in those areas that I'm adding this to. Now my original flowers over there are a little bit more of a burgundy or even purplish red. If I wanted that, then I would tone my paint in that color. But kind of like these red ones. And then again, another trick, take some water and add it with the red paint. Thinning out the red paint, a little bit of water. A little bit on your brush, you don't need a lot. Remember, what does water do to paint? It thins it out, and then it makes it a little bit more transparent. You can just come in here with this, lightly feathering it on to different parts of your flowers. You're gonna have to experiment with this a little bit, especially if you're looking for an exact process on how to create this stuff. It's a little bit intuitive once you kind of start to paint. To describe every single bit of this in detail is a little tricky. My brain is not laying out every single step before I do it. I'm just kind of looking at what I'm creating, and then I'll come in and add little touches here and there. But experimentation, playing with newfound techniques as you're progressing and learning your, how to paint, you'll be surprised that if you go back and attempt a painting that you did months ago, how much easier it is, and the new things that you've learned along the way, you apply them, and now you've got a much a much bigger toolbox to pick from, to pull from, and yeah, you'll create some really fun stuff. Okay, but all right, yeah, they're hibiscus flowers, right? Let's see. Kinkini goes, drawing of a simple portrait. Do you mark the contours first to sketch the features of the face? So there's different approaches. One of them is exactly that. You'll do the general shape of the head, for example, right? Having an ovalish thing. And then you start marking off. If you're looking, let's say you're looking at your portrait or the person's in front of you, you got your drawing over here. You know, you start with an oval shape and you mark off with lines, and you mark off where the features are going to be. Usually use a line, a curved line to mark off where the eyes are going to be. It all depends on the perspective, right? But and where's the tip of the nose? The tip of the nose is about here. Where's the mouth? It's about right here. Okay. Where's the chin line? Okay. Where's the hairline? I'll mark those all off. And at first, it looks just like a circle with a bunch of little lines in it. And then from there, I start to add detail slowly, a little bit at a time. But yeah. Okay. But all right, guys. So we could go in there and define the flowers a little bit more. I like the way they look. I'm happy with the way they look. Always take a little step back from your piece and look at it from a distance. Okay. Are you happy with it? Do you want it to be, lighter, darker? You can always make changes as you go along. Maybe the initial idea of what you had in your head, changed as you painted, as you started progressing through the painting. Excuse me. All right. So let's talk about glitter. So I have 3 different types of glitter over here. 2 different types of glitter. I got this glitterific brand. It's all full of paint. This green, neon green it's called, from Full Cart, glitterific. Okay, these are big chunks of glitter. I'm going to use that for my leaves. I've got this really fine gold glitter that I'm going to be using for the actual main part of the pineapple, all this down here. And then I've got a red glitter that I'll be using for the flowers. This is also a glitterific brand. Those are really thick, so I'm going to go ahead and set those down on the table like that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to come across and pass here in front of the camera. I'm going to grab. I like to recycle my plates as long as there we go. Found one here. I like to recycle my paints. I got some old paint on here, nice and dry. I'm going to take some of this brown or this gold glitter. We'll start with that. Let me spread it onto my plate. For those of you that are new to glitter, don't quite know what the heck I'm talking about. Basically, all this is glitter floating around in a glue base. Okay. So we'll start with the gold, and then we'll go over to the green and the red. What I like to do is I like to make sure before I start to apply my glitter that my brush, whatever brushes I'm going to be using for that step, I want to clean them up a little. So I swirl my brush around my water cup, and I use a paper towel to remove any excess paint. We don't want that paint to mix with the glitter and dull it. It won't be as shiny or as nice. So I'm just going to take this glitter like this, and I'm going to come over and I start to apply it. Again, I'm going to focus on these gold, on these brown gold areas. And what I like to do, what I find is that, I can take this gold glitter and apply it everywhere on that pumpkin on a pineapple. There I go. And it'll look nice, but for me, it works best when I highlight certain areas of it. I only apply it to parts of my painting. I don't have to do it on the entire thing. And I can also take this and I don't have to stick with just doing it on the gold areas. I'll concentrate more of it on the gold areas, the gold brown areas, but these lighter green areas I can apply a little bit in here too, maybe a little more subtle. I'll show you guys, I'll give you guys a close-up here in a second. Let me see if the camera will catch what I'm doing here. Okay. So let's say, for example, right in there, any areas that I think need to be highlighted, I will do, and I will take some of my glitter and spread it there. Okay. Really nice way to create these nice, nice little highlights in a painting. And again, a little bit of this, I can spread it to some of the lighter teal areas and look pretty nice. I could also use a green glitter in those areas instead. Okay, again, nice and thick. There we go. I think I saw a really nice reflection a moment ago. There we go. Nice and thick on the darker areas and a little more sparingly on the lighter areas. Really cool little finish to this. Okay, so there's that. Once all of that dries, I can come back and add some more, making it even darker, heavier. But I can let that dry for a little, and then I can come back and do that later. I'm going to take some of my green, which I just dropped. Let me grab that. Okay. Now, again, this Glitterific brand is really thick. Okay, don't need a lot. A little bit goes a long way. So let me spread that out on my plate first. I'll show you what it looks like up close. Pick this up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Also, you can order it through Amazon. If you guys need the link for that, let me know, and I can always send you an Amazon link. There's different colors of this stuff. But this is really thick glitter. And same thing. Maybe I just add it to the dark parts of the leafy part of the pineapple. Or maybe I add it to the lighter parts. Kind of up to you. You can play with it a little bit. Or maybe you add it to everything, but again, you just control the concentration. Like I can add this heavier, more heavily on these little points, on the dark green parts. So we can do those kind of quickly. Okay. And then maybe I'll take a little bit of it and spread it down in here. Oh, I think somebody asked about a tip, or yeah, I do have a virtual tip jar. Let me pull up. I have a virtual tip jar, and it is greatly appreciated for those of you that can. I'm going to show there's the information at the bottom of the screen there. I have a PayPal. I've got a Venmo, and then Zelle. The information's all right there. I've also listed the description, all this information in the description of the video. Okay, if you happen to go to PayPal or Venmo, you will see my picture holding a canvas, or so you guys know it's me, right? If you don't see my picture, it's not me. Sometimes if you type in the wrong name with just the wrong letter, you'll get somebody different. So if you guys are interested, like I said, it is greatly appreciated. Helps support the channel and the page, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. You can also help by sharing, by inviting friends that you think might benefit. Also, if you guys are interested in the membership, like I said, there's more details to come. I don't have all the things worked out yet, so I can't give you specifics just yet. But if you're interested, or you think you might be interested, so my idea is that I'm going to be launching in early July. Right now, my set date to launch, the founding members launch, will be July 1st. However, I might tweak that a little bit and maybe extend that out, the start to a week later, so around July 7th. I need to make sure that everything's good to go and that I know exactly what I'm going to be offering before I even, I don't want to open it up and not be clear. Things can change later, but I want to start with the nice flow and clear idea as to what the members will be getting so I can explain it to you guys, right? If you're interested, you can send me an email to paintingwithjesse@gmail.com and I'll add you to the list, to the information list. And then every time I update or add something, I'll send it out to you guys so you could look at it. No obligations or anything like that. Just because you're on the emailing list doesn't mean anything. But anyways, that is coming. So look at the glitter up on top. Look at that. Look how nice that is. Very, very nice. Okay. And again, same thing. I could leave this alone for a little and I can go back and add more glitter over the top, making it pop even more. So I'm going to take this also down here to my leaf. Just like that. Tomorrow or the next day, I'll be creating a post on Painting with Jesse, talking about that, where you could add your name to an email list specifically around the membership. Okay. So, all right, just add a little bit of glitter down here to the leaves at the bottom. Okay. Again, very nice little touch. Let's do this red for the flowers. And let me. Oops, don't need a lot. So again, very thick paint for this. This is the Glitterific brand from Full Cart. Same brush. Let me clean it up. Just swirling it around in my cup. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to stick with this brush. I was going to say I'm going to switch, but scoop up some of the paint. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to add it to the dark areas of the flower, of the petals. Don't have to put it everywhere. Maybe if I apply it to some of the lighter sections, it'll just be real subtle. Again, I like to, that's kind of the general process that I use when I'm adding glitter. If I'm adding red glitter to the red areas of a painting, usually I'll concentrate more of it in the darker red parts. If it's more subtle, more of a pink color, then I add a little bit less. Same thing with if I'm using green or gold, but there's no right or wrong. Whatever feels right, whatever is more aesthetically pleasing to you, or maybe you're painting something for somebody and you have a specific way you want something to turn out, and that's what you go with. That's the beauty about art, right? Everyone has different preferences, and while you may have something with a general appeal, or lots of people like it, there's always more subtle, another piece that may appeal to less people, but it's still appealing to some, and it's still art. So there's that red glitter on the flowers. Okay. All right, check that out. Very nice little touches with the glitter. Like I said, you could let this dry for a little bit, come back and add more glitter over the top, right? Concentrate, make it pop a little bit more. What I like to do before I paint the bottom edge, I like to sign my piece. And normally what I'll do is I'll take a contrasting color. I normally will sign my pieces at the bottom. I've got this dark blue. You could use red, whatever you'd like, using my little round brush. Some people like to do this with a Sharpie or an ink pen, or but what I'll do is I'll come down here. I like to paint with my last name. I painted that one on the other side. Okay. I will then flip it over and do my bottom edge. Okay, I still got that purple on my plate here, so okay, scoop this up. I come over, paint my edge here. Now I can also look at the side that was opposite from me and paint that. But anyway, folks, we are finishing up here. If you guys have any questions about anything, any comments, please put them down right now. In just a moment, I'm going to look over. Before I say goodbye, I'll answer any questions you may have. Don't forget, please send me your pictures. You could email me at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com with your pictures, or you could message me directly. If you're on Facebook, you can just go over to Messenger, go to Painting with Jesse, send message, and then you can attach your pictures there. All right? But all right, everyone. That is pretty much the end for today's session. All right, Donna, sounds good. Remember, just Donna, just send it to me via Messenger. It's probably the easiest way to do it. You got it, Diana. My pleasure. Okay. Yeah. Finishing touch. Finishing touch on the glitter is fantastic. Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to, okay, just type in your name, Jesse Mendivil, Painting with Jesse, right? PayPal. Yes, that should do it, Diana. You'll see my picture. You'll see my picture pop up. Okay. But all right, everybody, looks like you guys don't have any questions. But if you do, you can always email me directly too, or I prefer Messenger on Facebook. Messenger just makes it easy. Everything's in one spot. But if you want to email me directly instead, that's fine too. But questions, comments, most definitely send me your pictures so I can share those with everyone and let everyone know how awesome of painters you all are. Okay. But thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate it. Hope you all have an amazing rest of the evening and rest of the week. Don't forget, next Tuesday is our next painting session. We're going to be painting the little turtle family. Okay, this little painting right here. Details are listed under the event tab on the main Painting with Jesse page. I will be posting a pre-prep video hopefully by tomorrow. That's my plan, where I teach you how to draw the turtles. I'll also be posting the stencils for that at that point. Okay? But all right, everyone, thank you once again for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.